everybody, and welcome to TV Enthusiast discussion of Game of Thrones. Today we are going to be talking about episode 7 of season 6, titled The Broken Man. I am your host for the evening. My name is Tyson Gifford. I am the editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast, and joining me today, as always, is Will Roerig, our keeper of comics.
Hello.
Okay, so we're going to start this geographically at the Wall. So, Jon and Sansa have been meeting up with the Wildling army. They seem a little bit reluctant to join. But Tormund and One, who most people just know as the Giant, had Jon's back. They had their little, like, not Game of Thrones, their little, like, Lord of the Rings, like, and you have my man squishing feet.
You have my man squishing feet. You have my impossibly giant sword.
They agree. One does it by simply saying snow.
Snow. Yeah, One is awesome. Love One. Tormund's awesome too. Tormund's like, this man died for us. Okay?
Tormund's just not the same when he's not pining for Brienne.
I know. It's like, this man literally died for us. So if we can't do the same for him, what good are we?
Yeah, it was cool. They managed to get through it. We'll get back to the last part that happened on the Wall after Wildlings agreed, because before that there were two other areas in the north that Jon and Sansa went to. Apparently, Westeros has a high-speed rail system, because they're just darting all over the place this episode.
That secret high-speed rail system.
The Westeros rail is just doing gangbusters. So, first off, they went to Bear Island, which is the home of the Mormonts. So, if you watch the show and you're like, who are the Mormonts? Well, there's two Mormonts that you've already met. First, you have the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, the original one when the show first started. He was a Mormont.
Yeah.
And then you have Jorah, who is his son, and is Daenerys' grayscale infected compadre.
Grayscale infected, friend-zoned friend.
Yeah. And so he's a Mormont as well. He was the former Lord Commander's son. In addition, I was kind of surprised they didn't mention anything about how, Jon was there, that he has their ancestral family sword.
Yeah.
And it's refashioned for him. I mean, he didn't steal it or anything. The former Lord Commander did that on his own accord.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny that didn't come up at all, that, like, oh, remember Longclaw, your Valyrian steel priceless family heirloom artifact? It's mine now, and it has a wolf's head.
Whoops. Yeah.
But we got to meet this time at Bear Island. We got to meet Lyanna Mormont.
Yeah.
Who is the little girl ruler of the island, because basically all the other Mormonts were killed in one way or another.
She was she's something else. She was like, she's not fooling around. I was like, holy crap. I have to sit my ass down. It's like, wow. It's like, I didn't know, like, a 9-year-old girl or however old she could be so like hardcore.
It was funny when, like, Jon Snow was kind of smiling and, trying to share stories about, the Lord Commander, and stuff. And she's like, enough small chat.
Yeah,
and
right.
you just see Jon's face, like, sink, like, oh, but I like those stories.
Yeah, right. Well, I like telling stories. What?
So Jon tries to convince her. Sansa tries to convince her. They make a good point that neither of them are Starks, technically.
Yeah.
They do mention Rickon, who is a Stark, and would be technically, I guess, the heir to the throne, since they don't know that Bran is still alive.
Yeah,
where Bran is.
Like the confirmation that Rickon is still alive and the fact that nobody knows where the hell Bran is. We kind of make Rickon like the actual heir to the throne.
Yeah. But the one who ends up being able to convince her is Davos, who I guess just has experience talking with little girls.
Yeah, right?
He has experience talking with smart little girls, I guess. So, cause, he had his moments with Shireen before, and that all came into play, and was able to secure them a mighty 62 men!
62 men. There are dozens of us. Dozens!
So that was exciting to see. And we also saw later on at the wall that, you could actually see her there. So she actually went there as well.
Yeah, she actually went to the wall as well.
So that's cool. They had good luck with that. Not so good luck when they went to, Deepwood Mott though.
No.
Deepwood Mott's somewhere we've seen in the show before. That was where the Greyjoys took over. If you remember, Ramsay Bolton, got the Greyjoy pirates that were holding it to basically, stand down, basically saying he was going to spare them, and then it cut to him flaying them.
Yeah.
I believe that was Deepwood Mott. That was our first, scene where we got to see that. Deepwood Mott is ruled by the Glovers, who is actually, it was a Glover that Robb Stark, originally said was going to lead his vanguard.
Yeah.
And then it was an Umber, who we saw his Great John Umber. We saw Little John Umber is the one that brought Rickon Stark to, Ramsay. But his father, Great John Umber, was the one that was I won't follow a Glover. I'll lead the vanguard. And then ended up kind of arguing with, Robb. And then I think it was, that was when, Robb's direwolf bit off his fingers.
Oh, okay.
And he seemed very happy to have his fingers bitten off. He's like, your meat is bloody well tough. Umber, and so you have the Umbers and the Glovers there, okay? So Deepwood Mott is run by the Glovers. But the Glovers are not exactly Stark loyal anymore. They're not straight up turncoats like in the way, the Karstarks and, the Umbers are.
Right.
But they're not going to aid them.
They're not.
And they cite some pretty good reasons. It was a pretty good, shit on Robb fest today, this episode.
This episode was this episode was pretty much, fuck Robb Stark.
They make some pretty good cases for it. Robb Stark really did kind of fuck over all the Northern houses that he brought together. It was his choices that caused everything to happen.
Yeah, it was.
So, he took off the one Karstark leader's head. That made the Karstarks leave. That forced them to go to the twins to do the Red Wedding thing. But he had gotten married behind Walder Frey's back instead of to a Frey, which is what caused, the Freys to want to kill him for the Red Wedding. Yeah. So basically all of that is related to Robb Stark. It's his fault. So you can understand how some of these Northern houses aren't exactly too fond of another Stark. Not because they hate these people, but because they're the last time we crowned a Stark, the king in the North, we rallied completely behind you, and then look what happened.
Yeah, look what happened. Derp. Yeah.
So, Lord Glover is no, we will not support you. He says, who else is in your army? What other houses you have? And all Robb can say is, well, we sent ravens to this house and this house, and he's all, forget ravens. Who do you have? What is your fighting force? And he has to say, well, the majority of our fighting force is made up of wildlings. Yeah. And now you can start seeing the Northerner, prejudice against wildlings.
Yeah, you start seeing that didn't, help his case there.
Yeah, that was pretty much the final, it was already a no-go, and then that was yeah, fuck you. I'm out. We're not even talking anymore. Yeah. So that was the situation at Deepwood Mott. So obviously we get back to the wall, and Sansa and Jon are not exactly in the greatest of spirits. They're kind of rattling off the numbers they have. It's not, I mean, the wildlings are easily twice the number of anybody they're getting from the north. It's nothing, like really nothing that they have in support. You can already see the wildlings and the knights on the northern side are like already kind of like getting on each other's nerves too.
Yeah.
Davos is having to kind of break up some fights. Jon has to break up a fight. But then Sansa does something that's a little interesting. And this happened after Jon had basically said, no, we can't wait anymore. We can't request any more houses. We have to go now. We're out of time.
Yeah.
I think Sansa still doesn't have the full picture. Like, she's hearing, White Walkers this, White Walkers that. I guess she's seen a giant now. We didn't get like it would have been cool to see her get like a reaction to a giant, but we didn't really get that. Sansa is so like, well, we need more numbers. We need this. I think she's not taking the White Walker threat as seriously as, the wildlings and Jon are. Like, I don't think she doesn't really kind of quite, she's just kind of heard about it secondhand. She hasn't seen it firsthand. So she's like arguing with Jon about it. Jon's like, no, we have to go now. We don't have time. And so they're gonna be heading off to war. But here's where Sansa does something interesting is she goes and she sends off a raven, and we don't know who it's to. I guess the leading theory would be Littlefinger, right?
Like, she's that desperate that she's gonna go back and beg him after she rejected him.
It could be Littlefinger, could be somebody else, but it seems like Littlefinger.
But the thing is, like, if she's like, she rejected him pretty soundly because of what she did. Like, she hates him. She despises him. And also, he is not really trustworthy.
Yeah. And she does this behind Jon's back, too, which is an important thing.
So it seems like a total, it seems like kinda out there for her to send him a raven like that.
Yeah. It's just, I guess, her sense of desperation. Of course, we don't know if it was Littlefinger she sent it to. They purposely obfuscated that. So we didn't see who she was sending it to. She did not look happy to have to send it though. So it would fit that it's Littlefinger. It could also be, for all we know, it could have been sent to Ramsay. It could have been some kind of like a surrender or peace terms, for all we know.
Right.
Because she just doesn't have any confidence in the way that the war's gonna go. We don't know who it is, who she's sending it to. Could be something else entirely. We just don't know. But yeah, she's doing that behind Jon's back. Secrets and lies. And that's kind of...
Secrets and lies, secrets and lies, secrets and lies. Nothing gets you in trouble faster than secrets and lies.
Indeed. So that's kind of what's been happening with Jon and Sansa up north. We're gonna go like all the way down from the north because we didn't have any scenes at Winterfell, and we didn't have any scenes beyond the wall. So we're just gonna go straight down to the Riverlands, to Riverrun. So last week we saw Walder Frey basically telling them to, use Edmure Tully to get the Blackfish to leave. Blackfish like a badass. They're threatening Edmure. He's just like,
yeah.
So,
yeah, no, it's funny. He's just like, so get over with then. Kill him.
Just like no sympathy, like, it's practicality. He knows that there's, okay, so he lets them in, then they kill them all and, kill Edmure anyways,
kill it. It's practicality. Yeah, it's like, if he gives in to like his sympathy for his nephew, then you just know, he's gonna lose. So he has to maintain this tough demeanor. He has to be aloof about it.
Mm-hmm.
it's, I don't think that he doesn't care. It's just that he's not gonna lose that easily.
Mm-hmm. And then, Jaime shows up, with another, character we haven't seen in a little bit. We saw him last season, but only towards the kind of beginning half of it, and probably the worst story last season too. The Dorn story.
Did we see him like at the beginning of this season, or am I crazy?
No, you're crazy.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. We didn't. So yeah, we haven't seen him in a while, but good to have him back.
So Jaime and Bronn, carrying on their new bromance, going up. It's funny, Bronn, like the way he just reacts to the phrase and the way they set up their like siege. He's like, this isn't the siege. What the fuck is this? They don't know how to dig trenches. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And, Jaime basically like, oh yeah, somebody should teach them, you. And Bronn's like, oh, hey, no.
Hey, no. Well, yeah, I know, right?
So yeah, Jaime's there to take over the siege operation, as we learned last week. He gets there, he talks to the Freys. Man, the Freys are just a bunch of creeps. I mean, we knew Walder Frey was, and we'd seen these guys and they're kind of creepy looking, but we knew well, they're kind of just like in fear of their dad,
They're just, well, they are.
Like we see, they're just like, full on.
They're full on creeps too. Also incredibly incompetent. Like,
yeah.
Just pathetic. They're just pathetic as hell. Like, Jaime strolls in, right? And one of the best lines is Jaime's like, you just let a force of like over 300 men just stroll on in here. It's a good thing we're friends.
Yeah, Bronn said, or we'd be fucking you in the ass right now.
Yeah.
So Jaime comes in, he takes over the operation. The Freys that are on there aren't too happy about it. He orders that they treat Edmure a little bit better. They give him a bath and food. And I love how he talks to them about threats. He's like, you can't, if you make a threat, you have to follow through or nothing serious.
Yes.
Say if I was to say, if you don't shut your mouth, I'll smack you across the face.
Yeah.
The guy starts talking and he just smacks him.
He just smacks him again like, it's like, oh, Jaime's such a boss in this episode. It's hilarious. Like,
we got two bosses in the scene here. Actually, three if you count Bronn as well. We have Jaime and Brynden. Because Jaime and Brynden meet up with each other, and Jaime doesn't. They have a little parlay. Blackfish is just kind of doing like his Clint Eastwood impersonation or Robert De Niro impersonation. Just being a real salty old man bastard, like badass. And, Jaime just seems kind of a little disheartened. He's like, come on, man. We're gonna lose thousands. You're gonna lose hundreds. Either way, you're all gonna die. Like, what's the point? Come on, let's stop this. Let's have you guys can get away on my honor. And Brynden kind of scoffs. He's like, the honor of an oathbreaker.
Yeah, the honor of an oathbreaker. Yeah, he's not giving up that castle. He was born in that castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have a lot to say about that as well as kind of the stuff going on in the north when we get to pulling threads. But for now, Brynden seemed to kind of win that confrontation between him and Jaime.
Yep.
He kind of walked away still confident. Jaime walked away a little bit like, come on, throw me a bone. Now let's move over from River Run to the book that takes place on the Quiet Isle. So the map in the corner of the screen and how I'll refer to it, I'll just say it's the Quiet Isle for now until we learn different.
Okay.
But this is how the episode started. The episode actually started before, the only other time I can really recall them doing this before was, the scene where Tywin had the Stark's greatsword. Time I can think of that there's probably at least another one in there somewhere, but that's the only one for the actual opening credits. And so this let us know that a certain character is still alive. Our last scene. So this is something I kind of knew about. I knew a theory about this from the books that seemed pretty obvious. And it just seemed like all signs were pointing towards this happening, but you didn't know, right?
I kind of had a feeling he'd be back. You never actually seen him die, on screen. So, it was kind of like his supposed death happened off screen. So you knew there was always a chance that he wasn't fully dead and he'd be back. And, my reaction was more like, I was happy to see him.
Old, and, we saw a bit of that when he was journeying with Arya, that he kind of had started to take on this almost protective, like father-like role for her, And, here we kind of see this other side where it's like he's kind of looks a little bit repentant.
Yeah.
About, his life. He's kind of helping this group of hippies.
He's kind of like, well, he kind of like, there's this one line of dialogue where he says, oh, how come the gods haven't punished me, if they exist? And like Ian McShane.
It's like, yeah, you were kind of left to die and you were in suffering and great pain,
Yeah, I know, right?
Maybe they have made you pay. Just killing you isn't going to make you suffer. So, yeah.
Role for this great actor.
A great role though. He was interesting watching him as this kind of leader of this like hip.
Yeah, definitely. He put on a good performance with what he had.
Yeah, it was good. Basically what happened, this man that Ian McShane was playing, he's like a septon, of the faith of the Seven. And he's, taking care of this group of people that are basically trying to be peaceful and like half dead, and kind of like helped heal them up and get them ready. And the Hound's kind of working with them. It looks like they're building some kind of a church or something, a little small one for the community. And yeah, he tells a soldier and he would, kill and do whatever he needed, or he was ordered he won't fight anymore. They get visited though without banners are. They're the ones that the Hound had encountered them before.
Yes.
They were the ones that put the Hound on trial, and he had to fight. First time we saw Resurrection on the show.
Yep, that was the introduction.
Guys, the Hound thinks that these three guys are from the Brotherhood Without Banners, and he feels uneasy when he sees it. You can see the tension written all over the Hound's face. Like Ian McShane's character is like kind of just doing the turn the other cheek game, just going, you're welcome to stay and eat. When it's like, hey, you guys got to get ready. Something bad's coming. This is one of the big theories of Game of Thrones that fans have. A character that could end up being the face contestant against the Mountain. And that's the big theory.
This is only a theory because fans want to see them two fight. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, but if you think about it, the Hound hates the Mountain.
Well, yeah.
He has a reason to fight him, and then they were ordered to stop. So you kind of have these kind of hints at it, and the kind of clip the people that were helping the Hound, or the main guy, Ian McShane, was part of the faith of the Seven.
Yeah, pretty much.
That kind of leads to the possibility, if the Hound is becoming a repentant and faithful man because of his situation, because of his relationship with Ian McShane's character, then he might be somebody that could be called upon by the faith.
It's plausible, yeah, definitely.
So this is something I know a lot of fans really want to see, and it's a huge theory for that. I avoided mentioning it last week just because of the Hound thing, but now we've seen the Hound, so there's nothing that's undisclosed, there's nothing, no spoilers left in mentioning it. It's pure theory at this point. Besides Clegane Bowl and Siege of Riverrun and War of the North, we have the war from the east. So Yara and Theon are going to support Daenerys. The main thing I wanted to say here is if that ends up happening, if they end up making an alliance with Daenerys, then Team Daenerys has all the eunuchs.
Yeah, all the units. All the units. Yeah, I know, right? Team Eunuch.
So that's the main thing I wanted to say there. And then, Arya is in bad shape. Who knows what could happen? There could be a parallel to what we saw with Bran before, where with Bran and Mira were in a really bad situation where there was no way the two of them alone could get out of their situation. So maybe Arya's in a situation where she's going to get some help from a surprise source.
So a surprise, so we don't know.
Yeah, it's purely just because she's in such a bad situation. I honestly think, though, that if Arya ends up killing the Waif, that the Faceless Men will take that as like, okay, we're not going to go after you anymore.
Yeah, I think
because they don't really seem to care that much about loyalty. It's like, well, we just wanted somebody to die.
Yep, somebody has to die. So if she kills the Waif, I think it's okay.
Yeah. So that could be her out in that situation as well, but we don't know. That's it for pulling thread. So we have one last section on this video cast to talk about, and this is our first viewer mail. So this is a section I'm going to call Ravens.
Okay.
So this Raven came from SJ Martin 79, and he asks, "What do you think Queen Marjorie's plan is? After last night, we know she isn't brainwashed. I'd hoped it was an act. So what do you see her next actions being?"
Oh, that's
so, first. What do you think Marjorie's next action is?
No, that's a tough one. I don't know. I think her next action is going to be to work on getting her brother freed, trying to convince the High Sparrow that he's repentant, using her good graces with him to try and engineer it so that her brother is free, or at least in some form of freedom than more than what he's already in. And then maybe after that they'll go after the High Sparrow and try to take down the faith from within, with them having their trust. But I mean, that's the best I can come up with.
I think I don't think she has a plan. I think she is opportunistic, and that's her plan, is to continue to be opportunistic. I think she's kind of hiding in plain sight, and she's just kind of waiting for the right opportunity. And she showed us that she's not brainwashed, so we know that. But I don't think she has some great plan either. I think she's trying to secure her pieces. She's protecting her grandmother because she knows if her grandmother's gone, then that's one less ally she'll have when she can make a move.
Right, exactly.
Right now, she's just basically trying to make sure all her pieces are okay. She's trying to make sure she doesn't lose her pieces, and she's just kind of playing like the long con, just kind of waiting for the right opportunity. And I think she doesn't have any idea when that's going to come, but that she just assumes that, power is fleeting, and especially when you have groups of fanatics, that doesn't usually last long. And I think that's kind of her assumption, there is going to be a turn in this new status quo, and she's just waiting for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's more along the lines of what she's doing. I like that theory better.
So yeah, I think that's what she's doing, but that's it. Thank you, SJ Martin 79, for sending that question in. If you want to send in any questions to us, just add them to anything. Add them to our YouTube comments, add them to our comments on our article, send us a letter, contact at TVEnthusiast.com. You can reach us directly by email that way. Just any way you can contact us, just reach it out. Hit us up on Twitter. I don't know. Whatever. You'll see our Twitter links in the story for this article. So, but that's it. Thank you everybody for watching. We do this every week. We're going to do this again next week. We did a show called TVE versus Marvel and DC where we talked about the comic book shows. That's come to an end now because those shows have ended. We might do some more shows in the future, maybe at some point. But right now, we do have a podcast that we do every week on Thursdays called The Weekly Set. You can check that out. Recently, we've been going over Peaky Blinders, which is a show that you can watch on Netflix. The first 4 seasons are out, I believe. Is it 4 or no, it's 3 seasons out right now, I think. Maybe 4, I'm not sure. Right now we're on episode 5. That's what we're going to be talking about this week. We just watched episode 4 last week. So if you want to watch along with us, we'll be discussing episode 5 of Peaky Blinders on Thursday night. So if you want to send us a question, same way you can contact us about the Game of Thrones thing. Contact at TVEnthusiast.com, comment in the YouTube article, anything like that. That's the way you can contact us. But until then, thank you everybody for listening. Night.
Night.